Okay, Gemar Tov, everybody. That was weak. Gemar Tov, right? We're starting a good new year. We want to be written and inscribed for good. Let's bring a little energy on a rainy night. Yesher koach to you, Nancy. Thank you for your words. Among the most famous and noteworthy rabbis of this past year, at least in the small world of our colleagues here in New York, is somebody who you probably haven't heard of. But his name was Rabbi Joshua Franklin. Rabbi Josh Franklin, this past year, scared himself to death because he innocently asked himself and then his congregation, what can I do for a little experiment? And so he asked ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence program that's so widely used across so many industries now, to write his Shabbat morning sermon for him. He said, ChatGPT, write a nice sermon on empathy. He typed that into his computer. In an instant, out came a sermon. He printed it out. He delivered the sermon to the congregation as if it were his own, an experiment to see, could rabbis ever be replaced by AI, by artificial intelligence? And he found, much to his unpleasant surprise and to his consternation, not only did the congregation have no clue, they didn't know the difference at all, it was one of his best received sermons. They loved it so much, they were ready to extend his contract. And so, funny enough, among the things I've heard through this season, as I've given my sermons now through Rosh Hashanah, is something to the effect of, pretty good speech, Rabbi, but how can we be so sure? How can we be so sure? Well, I promise you these words were written the old-fashioned way with a pen and a legal pad and some Post-it notes on a book, straight from the human heart. It's a world that's just filled with news about AI fever and AI fear. Professionals, rabbis included, but across all industries worrying, will I be replaced by a computer? A version of myself that's more efficient, that's better at doing what I do than I could ever be. A world where the ethical debates around self-driving cars abound. I printed an article just a few days ago and shared it with some of you, Times of Israel, a rabbi who wants to include in the liturgy for Yom Kippur a new al-chet, a new sin that we should be worried about. This rabbi says, for the sin of AI manipulation, a modern addition to Yom Kippur. We're supposed to pray that the technology we create will be moral and helpful and good for humanity and our planet rather than a danger to society and all of us. That's the inclusion, this rabbi says, al-chet, for AI. And knowing, as I do very well, that there could be an artificial intelligence program that is more responsive to congregants' questions than I could ever be, and that knows more about Judaism than I could ever know, or any rabbi who's ever existed, that has a database of every single quote, every piece of Jewish knowledge to call up in an instant. Thought I'd speak tonight as we enter Yom Kippur, as we reflect on the story and the meaning of our lives, quite simply about what it is that makes us human. About the difference between a rabbi and a ChatGPT, but the difference between a computer and a Jew, what makes us human. For all that is good about modern technological advance, how do we cling to our humanity, to our souls in that age of high-speed processing? How do we cling to what's real in an age of virtual simulation? How do we hold on to what's best about ourselves as human beings made in the image of God in an age where our very humanity seems to be slipping away, or at the very least, quickly replaced? First difference between a computer and a Jew is the freedom of choice. Judaism, our Torah says, with every ounce of strength and every ounce of conviction that we can muster, you may be influenced, but you are not programmed. We are free. If there's any message of this season, it is that message of freedom. It's the season of celebrating the possibilities of our freedom in a moral context. We hold this word up tonight and tomorrow. The word teshuvah doesn't mean, as we typically translate it, repentance from sin. It means just turn around. Just have the freedom to be able to turn, as if to say, this entire season, every piece of liturgy in this book, all of it pointing you to the reality that you have within you already everything you need. If you're walking down a path in life and you can see the end of that path and it's not the one you want, that you can on Yom Kippur, if you're reflective, if you treat this day the way it's meant to be treated, that you can say the story of my life in the book of life that's being written, it's not being written in a way that I'm proud of, and therefore I hold the pen and I can turn. Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom, the Torah says in the reading, that's all about this idea that's associated with this moment. God says, I place before you a path of blessing, a path of curse. Which path will it be? And will you have the courage to assert your freedom and to choose wisely in all the ways you can in life? The Torah didn't know from ChatGPT. Torah didn't know from AI. There's no Hebrew word, certainly not an ancient Hebrew word for robot. The Torah knew in so many ways what is a key to a life well lived, what separates us from even the most sophisticated and brilliant computing systems, knew what makes us human, because other traditions at that time in the ancient world spoke about celestial forces that ruled our destiny. They spoke about astrology and fate. They worshiped the sun and the moon. They said, we're influenced in ways we can't control. Countless books in the ancient world written to tell you who you must be rather than ask you who you can be. Came the Jewish people into this world to say there's a God above all of that. There's a God that planted within us, though we may be influenced by our histories, by our families, by our tendencies, a God who planted within us a gift and therefore a responsibility and therefore the expectation that we will assert our freedom, that we will live up to the promise of our lives and the mission of our people. The season offers us a book of life. It says the book is not yet written and you have the responsibility to begin. It's why I don't like wishing people, Shana Tova, may you be written. I say instead, Shana Tova. Now get busy writing a story that you can be proud of. It's not easy, I know. We reflect on the past mistakes of a year. It's not easy to just turn around and choose a new story for who we might be in the coming chapter of the year. We sang Kol Nidre just a moment ago. There's a need for Kol Nidre. There's a real need for an annulment of vows. It's a recognition that our words, our promises, our hopes, our intentions, our striving during the year to change our lives in the ways we want, well, we find ourselves back here on Kol Nidre a year later saying, hey God, can I get another annulment? I did my best, but I need those to be canceled out. I didn't quite live up to my hopes. I wasn't able to be free in the way that I wanted to be. But this season, this day, is all about finding ways, however we can, to transcend that programming, to make a leap beyond ourselves. It's why we call out for help to that which is beyond us. And to turn again, and a third and a fourth time, whatever it takes to build that moral habit to take us down the roads in life we want to walk down. What else? How else do we assert our humanity in this age of technology? There's a rabbi I know who's very fond of speaking about the memory of sharing with his Hebrew school class a very deep and challenging question. He asked the class of 13-year-olds, what is God like? And so he turned to this room of 13-year-olds and he said to them, hey, what's God like? Innocent enough. Well, they scratched their heads and they stared at him blankly for a moment, and then promptly all whipped out their iPhones and began asking, hey Siri, what's God like? We know that Siri can call up so much information. Every book ever written, every quote about God ever thought up, but Siri can't dream of that which is beyond. Can't sing a song to God. Can't pray to God as we do tonight with a heart that's filled with gratitude or a broken heart at the beginning of a new year. We come here and we offer our full selves in an emotional way, in a heartfelt way. We offer our prayers, our very souls are laid bare. We're human because we're free. We're human because we have beating hearts that are filled with emotion. When we rise and strike the hearts as part of the prayers, it's because we need to get them moving and get them started again. We come to this night, and it's not just a night that's a nice time to be together in community. We come with our guilt. We come with our yearning. We come because we miss those who are lost. We come with excitement and worry. We bring all of that to our prayers. We're human beings because we feel deeply, because we know what the psalmist said, Melo kol haaretz kulo, that the whole earth is filled with God's glory, that there's an awe and a wonder to these moments of prayer. We need to reclaim that feeling in Judaism as well. One of my worries, deep worries about the future and the tech age, is the very real danger of the rotting of the soul. I wake up like so many of you and so many I know, and immediately I turn on my phone, and if I look to social media, well, there's envy, and my soul begins to rot before the day's even begun. And I look to the news, well, there's worry, and there's fear, and there's anger, more than most of us can even handle. And the advertisements, of course, before every video, well, there's vanity. And if the first thing I do and the last thing I do every day when I get up and when I lie down is online shopping, and if I include that throughout the day, well, guess what? My first and my last thought every day are focused on what I need rather than the blessings I've been given. Focused on lack rather than blessing and abundance. I worry what that does to the state of the soul, myself included. I count myself in all of this. You imagine how different your day would be if you just, as an experiment, try it once. Started for the first 20 minutes and ended in the last 20 minutes, instead of all that, with poetry, with inspiring music, with learning for self-growth, with the triumphs of the human spirit, rather than the suggestions of an algorithm that doesn't know you and doesn't care about you. How could that set the tone for a day? How could that fill your cup? I got news for you. It is what our tradition asks of us, and I believe it's more important than it's ever been. 5,000 years later, it's more important than it's ever been to start your day not with, oh, what do I need, but with modeh ani, grateful am I. It's the exact opposite approach. To start your day not reading about someone you haven't spoken with in 30 years, or someone who you never even met, and what they had for lunch on a vacation you didn't even know they took. But instead to ask what this book asks, Me chayinu, what is my life? Ma chasdenu, what is my goodness? Ma tzidkenu, what is my righteousness? What is my strength? Who am I? Who am I? Start your day with that purpose. Fill your cup in that way. Change your life more than you realize. Story about a young woman who was holding a cup of coffee in shul. And it happens that someone came along who was careless and bumped into her arm, and she spilled the coffee everywhere. Well, the rabbi saw what happened, and he rushed over, first to check and make sure she was okay, but then seeing an opportunity, as rabbis do, to offer a life lesson. Why do you think you spilled the coffee? Such a rabbi question. She answered, well, of course, because someone bumped into me. The rabbi shook his head. Not exactly. You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in the cup. If it had been tea, you would have spilled tea. Whatever is inside the cup, that is what will come out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, as it will, whatever is inside of you will come out. It's easy to fake until you get rattled. So what are you filling your cup with this year, at the start and at the end of each day? Will it be the highest expressions of the human spirit and striving, or will it be AI-generated news articles meant to pit you against one another, anger, fear, and the like? I leave that to you. Final way that I think we all need to remember who we are as human beings, as people, as Jews in the year to come, is to know the importance of something very simple and very basic that is lost: the importance of connection. We know that when the internet was still a dream, people thought it would bring almost a messianic age of connection. Everyone across the globe will be connected in common purpose, in shared destiny. It'll help us to transcend our differences, to truly hear each other's perspectives. We thought it could bring us all closer together. In ways it has, but in more ways than not, instead, sadly, we've seen almost the opposite effect. That technology, for all its good, is just superb at the way it divides us, at the way it puts us in our echo chambers where we only hear people who have the same opinion as us, in the way that it helps us to double down on our differences through that, in the way that it, because of convenience or because of addiction, as is the case with a lot of young people today, separates us from those we love the most when we live behind barriers and speak to each other only from behind the walls of bright screens that are so much a part of every single day, that are found in our pockets, that are carried with us always, that are in every room in the house. I worry about what we are missing. I worry about the smiles and the laughter and the moments of connection that are missed when a family sits on a couch and 4 or 5 are in separate worlds. I worry that I'm scared to even count out of my own past year, of the 8,760 hours that God gave me last year, I don't want to know how many of them I squandered. I gave up. For what? I worry about what I'm missing. This frantic news junkie and email guy, you know how quickly I try to respond. Kaylee and I, we're excited about the future family that we're building. And I always worry when I see families out at restaurants where children are there around the table and each child has a different tablet and is watching a different movie. I worry about that. I remember my mother read to me the book Goodnight Moon. You know that book? Well, I thought about that this year because I remembered an article that I read that said the story for our time isn't Goodnight Moon, it's Goodnight Moon 2.0. In the bright, buzzing room, there was an iPad and a kid playing Doom and a screensaver of a bird launching over the moon. Instead of goodnight stars, goodnight air, goodnight noises everywhere, it ends. Goodnight pop stars, goodnight MacBook Air, goodnight gadgets. Everywhere. Take comfort at least knowing that if in 100 years nobody else on the planet knows what it means to hold a book in your hand, and nobody else on the planet knows what it means to sit around a dinner table and share a meal looking each other in the eye, at least the Jewish people will know. Because we have a Torah that reminds us what we really ought to know. If only once a week. And if you can't handle that, if only half the day once a week. And if you can't handle that, if only on the holidays, but instead of what you typically do, try. You can do it. I promise you, you can. To tune in to the moment, to turn to the people you love, and to really be there with them and listen to them and see them and take stock of the moments that we've been blessed with before they're gone, before I come to the end of this life and I say, where did I give my attention? Where did I put the most precious gift that God could give me, the gift of shared moments with those I love? My friends, it is an interesting and a wild time to be alive, to be a human being. It's an important time to know what makes us human. With everyone else looking forward to what's to come, the latest iPhone, the hottest new Tesla model, might we instead look back toward the most time-tested values that have made us who we are as a people, that have carried us through the centuries as a people, to assert your freedom, to find the things that make your soul sing, to be present for those you love the most. As you go off into this year, as you lay in your bed tonight with your phone or your tablet in hand, which I hope you'll try not to do, but even if you do, you may be tempted to ask ChatGPT, how can I have a meaningful year in 5784? If you do ask it that, be curious to hear what the answer is, and if the sermon ends up being better than this one. But instead, I suggest to you, put it down and ask yourself, ChatGPT, for all of its wisdom, finds no joy in life, do I? ChatGPT, for all of its wisdom, takes no pleasure in seeing the end result of effort and striving to improve, do I? ChatGPT, for all its wisdom, cannot hug and kiss and say, I love you, to a spouse or a parent or a child. Do I enough? ChatGPT has no fears. Will I admit and share mine on Yom Kippur with the vulnerability and the hope that my humanness will bring me closer to who I am and my God and my people? ChatGPT doesn't know what it's missing. So my suggestion to all of you, let's not either. 5,784 years have come and gone for our people, and 5,784 more to come. Who knows? Who knows? But I know the values of our Torah, the values of this book, our freedom, our hearts and souls, our connection to community and those we love, those things stand the test of time. May they be what sustains us. May they be what carry us forward into our future, whatever it may bring. Gemar Tov.